I died choking on my own blood in the rain-slicked streets of Naha, Okinawa. My father's boot prints still embedded in my ribs from the last kick he delivered before shoving me into traffic. The truck's headlights blinded me, and as the world exploded in screeching metal and shattering glass, I heard my brother's voice over the chaos. "She's gone, Dad. Now the house is ours." Betrayal tasted sharper than the asphalt grinding into my teeth, my own flesh and blood, selling me out for a slice of paradise that was never theirs. But death isn't the end when you've got unfinished business. I woke up gasping in my old bed in Seattle. The calendar on my nightstand frozen at June 15th, 2018. 7 years before that fatal trip. My 25-year-old body humming with a ghost of screams I hadn't yet uttered. The first thing I did was vomit into the wastebasket beside my desk. The acrid burn of bile mixing with the phantom copper of blood I swore I could still taste. My hands smooth, unscarred, nails not chipped from clawing at concrete, trembled as I clutched the edge of the mattress. This wasn't a dream. The faded band posters on the walls, the stack of unpaid bills from my dead-end barista gig, the faint scent of Mom's lavender soap lingering in the air like a half-forgotten promise. It was all here, preserved in amber, before the lies, the forgeries, the final shove. I stumbled to the mirror, staring into eyes that were mine but sharper now, laced with the knowledge of a lifetime, or what should have been one, stolen away. Ellie Harper, age 25 again, but carrying the weight of 32 years of regret and rage. They thought they'd buried me with Mom's secrets. They were dead wrong. I replayed it all in that first hazy hour, the memories crashing like waves against a crumbling pier. Mom had died 5 years prior, cancer, quick and merciless, leaving behind that rambling Ryokan-style house on the cliffs of Onna Village, Okinawa. She'd bought it during her wild post-divorce phase. A love letter to the island where she'd fallen for Dad during his brief stint as a Marine. "It's yours, Ellie," she'd whispered in her hospital bed, her hand frail in mine, signing over the deed with a notary who'd driven through Seattle traffic just to make it official. "The only inheritance that matters. Keep it safe from your father. He's always been more interested in the view than the view from home."
Dad.
The charming salesman with a gambling habit and a wandering eye had laughed it off back then, calling it hippie nonsense. My brother, Jake, the perpetual disappointment fresh out of community college with a rap sheet for petty theft, had eyed me with that sullen jealousy, muttering about how I got all the luck. But luck, it was a curse from the start. They waited until I was vulnerable after I'd sunk my savings into restoring the place, turning it into a boutique inn for eco-tourists, pouring my soul into teak floors and shoji screens that whispered of Mom's dreams. Then came the calls, Dad's sob stories about debts, Jake's pleas for just one loan. I said no, every time, because I knew the house was my anchor, the one thing that proved I wasn't adrift like them. So they plotted. Forged documents claiming I'd gifted it to the family trust. Hired a shady PI to plant evidence of my instability, fake psych reports. Doctored emails painting me as unhinged. And when I flew to Okinawa to fight it, they followed. Dad's fists in the alley behind the notary's office. Jake's getaway car idling at the curb. "Sign it over, Ellie, or we'll make sure no one believes a word you say." I didn't sign. I died instead.
Now,
back in this body. This time, I wouldn't beg. I'd burn their world down from the inside. But revenge isn't clean. It's a blade that cuts the hand that wields it. And as I wiped my mouth and straightened up, staring at the woman in the mirror who looked too young to carry such darkness. I wondered if I'd survive my own fury. The next few days blurred into a frantic reconnaissance mission, me haunting my own life like a specter in broad daylight. Seattle's summer sun mocked me with its relentless cheer, piercing the evergreens and bouncing off the Puget Sound like nothing had changed. But everything had. I called in sick to the coffee shop, threw my phone across the room when the manager whined about shifts, and barricaded myself in the tiny apartment I'd shared with two roommates who chain-smoked weed on the fire escape. First order: dig up the dirt I'd been too naive to see before. Mom's old laptop, tucked in a box under my bed, held the keys. Password: on a sunrise. It unlocked like a confessional. Emails from 2013, the year after Mom's death. Dad to Jake. Kid, she's got the deed. We play nice for now. But that house, prime real estate. Tourists pay top dollar for cliff views. Jake's reply: screw nice. We say she forged it. Cops'll believe us over her. Then the smoking gun, a scanned letter from a Honolulu lawyer, outlining Dad's offshore accounts bleeding dry from poker losses in Vegas. Mom had known. She'd cut him off in the divorce, leaving the house as her fuck you to his addictions. But they'd twisted it, claiming in court docs, which I printed out, my hand shaking, that I was the gambler, the one who'd squandered her estate. Lies layered on lies, each one a brick in the wall that led to my grave. I needed proof they couldn't forge away. By noon on day 3, I was on a red-eye to Okinawa. No. Wait. Too soon. Play it smart,
Ellie.
I booked a flight to Vegas instead, cashing out my meager savings for a burner phone and a cheap motel off the strip. The neon assault hit me like a migraine, slot machines chiming eternal promises, cocktail waitresses in feathers gliding past like ghosts of bad decisions. Dad's old haunt, the Bellagio's high roller lounge, where he'd lost his soul one hand at a time. I slipped in with a fake ID. Ellie, the college dropout, could have been anyone, and nursed a watered-down whiskey, eavesdropping on pit bosses who remembered that Harper prick, always bouncing checks. One of them, a grizzled vet named Rico with tattoos snaking up his neck, bought my sob story about a deadbeat dad. Oh, you? Hell, he still does. Wrote a marker for $50K last year, never paid. Got his brother's name on it too. Jake the Weasel. If your family, tell M the house of cards is folding. 50 grand? That was the hook they'd sunk into me before, guilting me into loans that vanished like smoke.
But now,
with timestamps and witness statements Rico scribbled on a napkin, I had leverage. Blackmail?
no.
Justice. Or at least, the American dream version: sue the bastards into oblivion. Back in Seattle by week's end, the apartment felt smaller, the walls closing in with the weight of what was coming. Jake called first, his voice all faux concern. Sis,
Dad's worried about you.
that Okinawa trip, maybe postpone? We're family, right? I laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Family?
Yeah. Jake.
Let's talk family over dinner. Tomorrow. Your treat. He hesitated, that deadbeat drawl cracking.
Sure.
The usual diner?
No.
Mom's old place. The house on Queen and... Silence. Then a grunt.
Fine.
But don't bring drama. Drama. As if I could leave it behind. That night, I dreamed of the cliffs again, not the fall, but the view Mom loved, turquoise waves crashing against volcanic rock, the sun dipping like a blood orange into the sea. In the dream, she was there, whole and laughing, her hand on my shoulder. They're thieves.
Ellie.
But thieves bleed too. I woke sweating. The burner buzzing with a text from an anonymous number, Rico's contact. Harper boys spotted at a realtor's office. Okinawa listings. Move fast. The diner on Queen and Hill was a relic. Vinyl booths cracked like old skin, the air thick with grease and regret. I arrived early, sliding into the corner booth with a manila folder thick as a grudge. Dad and Jake strolled in 20 minutes late. Dad in his ill-fitting polo reeking of Old Spice and desperation. Jake slouched in a hoodie, eyes darting like he owed the waitress money. They slid in opposite me, Dad forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Ellie Bug, you look tired. Everything okay? Straight to the hook. Cut the shit.
Dad.
Okinawa.
The house.
You two have been sniffing around realtors. Jake choked on his coffee, sputtering brown flecks onto the formica. Dad's face hardened. That's salesman mask slipping.
What?
Honey, that's family property. Your mom would have wanted you to forge her will? Plant psych evals calling me crazy. I slapped the folder down. Photos spilling out. Rico's affidavit. The marker IOU. Printouts of their emails from Mom's laptop. Jake's eyes widened, his Adam's apple bobbing like a buoy in a storm.
This
is bullshit.
Ellie.
You're paranoid. Like always. Paranoid. The word ignited something feral in me. The echo of their taunts in that Naha alley. Paranoid? Or just finally seeing you for the parasites you are? Mom left that house to me.
Me.
Because she knew you'd sell your own kids for a quick buck. Dad leaned forward, voice low and venomous. The kind he'd used to bully Mom into silence. Watch your tone.
Girl.
We built that family. You're just the leftover. The waitress hovered, sensing the thunderhead. But I waved her off. This was our storm. Jake tried the pity play next. His specialty. Sis.
Come on.
Dad's sick. Heart stuff. We need the cash. Just sign it over. And we'll cut you in. 20%. 20% of my soul? I laughed again.
Colder this time.
Sign what? The deed you already forged? Or the one that'll land you in federal fraud? I pulled out the big gun, a preliminary lawsuit draft from a pro bono attorney I'd conned with my inheritance woes story. Embezzlement. Forgery. Elder abuse on Mom's estate. 10 years minimum.
Boys.
The color drained from Dad's face, his knuckles whitening on the table edge. You wouldn't. We're blood. Blood. I leaned in, my voice a whisper laced with the grave. You spilled mine once. Don't tempt me to return the favor. Jake bolted then, mumbling about the bathroom. But I knew he was texting his shady lawyer buddy, scrambling for an out.
Dad stayed,
pleading in that broken way that almost worked last time. Ellie?
Please.
Jake's my boy. He's got nothing without this. Nothing. Like I'd had nothing after they stripped me bare. I left them there, the folder a grenade with the pin half pulled. Driving back through Seattle's drizzle, the space needle looming like a judgmental finger. I felt the first crack in my armor. Revenge tasted sweet, but it hollowed you out.
What if they fought dirty again?
What if I became the monster they accused me of being? The house in Okinawa called to me, a siren song of salt air and second chances. But first, I had to bury the bodies metaphorically.
For now.
The fallout hit like a Pacific typhoon, winds howling through our fractured family tree. By morning, my inbox was a war zone. Jake's frantic voicemails. "You crazy bitch. You'll regret this." And Dad's measured emails from his work account. All corporate, cool, masking the panic. "Let's talk mediation."
Ellie.
"No courts." "For your mother's sake." For her sake? The hypocrisy burned hotter than a habanero. I forwarded everything to my attorney, a sharp-eyed public defender named Lena, who'd clawed her way out of a similar mess with her own deadbeat kin. "This is gold. Harper," she texted back. "But it'll get ugly." You ready for the mud? Ugly was the plan. I quit the coffee shop for real that afternoon, trading lattes for liberation, and holed up in a library cubicle downtown, poring over property laws like a woman possessed. Washington's statutes were a labyrinth, but Okinawa's under U.S. influence from the bases had teeth. Fraud on foreign-held assets meant international extradition if they tried flipping it quick. I drafted anonymous tips to the FBI's white-collar division, citing the Vegas markers as money laundering bait. Controversial? Hell yes. Tipping off feds without ironclad proof skirted the line between whistleblower and vigilante. But in America, justice is a contact sport, and I was done playing fair. Jake struck first. The coward's way. 2 days later, as I jogged along the Burke-Gilman Trail, needing the endorphin rush to drown the nightmares, a black SUV tailgate too close, swerving onto the shoulder with a blare of horns. I dove into the ferns, heart slamming like a bass drum, watching the plates. Washington, registered to a Shell LLC Dad used for his consulting gigs. Message received, back off, or we run you down. Last time, it had been a truck in Okinawa. This time, Seattle sidewalks. I filed a police report, but the cop, a burly guy with a mustache that screamed burnout, yawned through it. "Family spat? Happens all the time.
Miss.
Get a restraining order if you're scared." Scared? I was furious. That night, over takeout pad thai in my dim kitchen, I crossed the Rubicon. Logged into Dad's old email, password unchanged since Mom's funeral, Family First 87, and found the motherlode. Correspondence with a Naha realtor. Dates synced to my forged psych reports. Client insists sister is unstable. Push the sale before she contests. Attached, scan checks from Jake's account to the PI. Funneled through a crypto wallet. Money trail.
Clear as day.
I didn't delete, I downloaded, encrypted on a thumb drive, and sent copies to Lena. Then, the twist of the knife, an email chain from 2017. Post my instability smear. Dad to Jake. If she won't fold, we make sure she can't. That cliff path, slippery after rain. Accidents happen. They'd plan my murder. Not just the beating, but the setup. Lure me to the cliffs for a family reconciliation, stage a slip. The truck was back up. My stomach roiled, the noodles turning to lead. These weren't desperate men. They were architects of oblivion, scheming in boardrooms and back alleys like characters from a gritty Scorsese flick. But this was my story now, and I wasn't fading to black. Lena called at dawn, her voice crackling with caffeine and conviction. "Ellie, this is attempted homicide territory. We go nuclear, press charges,
Freeze assets.
the works. Nuclear." The word echoed Mom's last breaths, her warnings about Dad's darkness. "Do it," I said, my voice steady as steel. "But I want the house. All of it. She chuckled, low and knowing. Greedy?
Nah. Smart.
I'll loop and jag. Those marine ties might speed up the Okinawa extradition if they bolt. They bolted. Predictably. By noon, Dad's office line was disconnected. Jake's socials gone dark. A neighbor texted, a sweet old lady who'd baked me cookies after Mom died. Your brother's truck's gone?
Dear.
Packed in a hurry. I pictured them hightailing to Seattle-Tacoma, passports in hand, dreaming of cashing in on Anna's cliffs. But I'd anticipated. At the airport, I waited in the shadows of Terminal A, baseball cap low, watching the departures board. Sure enough, a red-eye to Tokyo. Layover in Naha. Amateurs. Controversy brewed fast. I leaked the email chain, sanitized. No names to a local blogger, one of those true crime podcasters with a grudge against family frauds. By evening, it was viral. Seattle siblings plot sister's demise for island paradise. Comments exploded, half cheering my badassery, half crucifying me as the vindictive harpy tearing families apart. One troll, women like her deserve the cliff. Family overfeels. Another, go Ellie, burn the patriarchy. The tension coiled in my gut like a spring. Every ping of my phone a reminder that revenge wasn't private. It was a spectacle. American as apple pie and pitchforks. I flew out the next morning. Economy to Naha. The 14-hour haul, a meditation in malice. The plane's hum lulled me into fragmented sleep. Dreams of Mom dancing on the Ryokan's veranda. Her laughter mingling with the crash of waves. Fight dirty if you must, baby. But when? I woke to the captain's announcement, typhoon warnings, delays on the tarmac, and smiled. Storms suited me now. Okinawa hit like a fever dream. Humid air thick with plumeria and jet fuel. The distant roar of Kadena Air Base underscoring the island's uneasy American heartbeat. I rented a scooter, nothing flashy. Just a beat-up Yamaha that blended with the locals, and beelined for Anna Village. The house's shingle roof peeking over hibiscus hedges like a faithful dog awaiting its master. It was untouched. Thank God. The caretaker, old Mr. Tanaka, greeted me with bowed reverence, his English halting but kind. Miss Ellie, you come back. The wind spirits happy. Inside, the air was stale with disuse, but the bones were strong, bamboo ceilings arching like cathedral vaults, tatami mats soft underfoot. I ran my fingers over Mom's engraved plaque by the Genkan. Home is where the heart roils the sea, and wept. Not for loss, but for the reclaiming. Tanaka brewed matcha, his eyes sharp as he sipped. Men come. Ask questions. About selling. I say no.
Date Yorsh.
Bless him. I slipped him an envelope, my last cash. $1,000, and begged his silence. Watch for 2 Americans.
Tall.
1 gray hair. 1 sloppy. Call me. They arrived that afternoon. A rental jeep kicking up gravel like an invasion. I watched from the upstairs Engawa, hidden by sliding screens, as Dad and Jake unloaded duffels, their faces gaunt with jet lag and guilt. Dad paced the garden, phone to ear, barking at the realtor. We're here. Get the papers ready, full price.
No contingencies.
Jake lounged on the veranda steps, cracking a beer, his laugh brittle. Think she'll chase us?
Nah.
She's all bark. Bark? I'd show them bite. As dusk fell, painting the sea in bruised purples, I slipped out the back, circling to the cliff path, the one they'd plotted my accident on. Loose stones. Sheer drop. Waves gnashing below like hungry jaws. I waited in the underbrush. Heart a war drum. Until their voices echoed closer. Sign it tomorrow. Dad. We're golden. Jake slur. Dad sigh. If she doesn't show up with cops.
She did.
Stepping from the shadows like Lady Macbeth with a law degree. Cops?
Oh.
They're coming. But first, family time. They froze. Dad's face crumpling into that salesman plea. Jake dropping his bottle in a clatter of glass. Ellie? How? Traced your cards. Idiots. Vegas habits die hard. I held up my phone. Liv streaming to Lena, the cliff. The confessions spilling as I played the audio, their emails. Rico's testimony. The murder plot. Smile for the feds. This goes viral if you run. Jake lunged, wild-eyed. But Dad grabbed him, hissing, "Don't. You fool." The struggle teetered on the edge. Literally, pebbles skittering into the void, and for a heartbeat, I saw it. Push them. End it. Controversial? A trial by tide. No courts needed. But Mom's voice cut through. Win. Not wallow. I stepped back. Sirens wailing distant from Naha PD. Tanaka's call. It's over.
Boys. The house.
Your freedom. Everything you stole. The arrest was anticlimactic. Almost merciful. A pair of Okinawan officers in crisp uniforms cuffing Dad and Jake under the floodlights of the Ryokan's garden. Their protests muffled by the sea's indifferent roar. Dad's eyes met mine over the squad car's hood, pleading one last time. Ellie, think of your brother. Blood's thicker. Thicker than the lies you drowned me in? I shot back. The words tasting of ash and victory. Jake spat curses, calling me every name in the Deadbeat dictionary. But the fight had drained from him, leaving a hollow shell. As they were loaded up, extradition papers already faxed to Seattle PD, I turned away, the salt wind stinging my cheeks like unshed tears. Revenge delivered. But the echo chamber of what-ifs lingered. Lena flew in 2 days later, her briefcase stuffed with injunctions and grins. You did it, Harper. Deeds ironclad, Mom's notary was bulletproof. House is yours. Free and clear. We celebrated on the veranda with sake from Tanaka's private stash, the old man toasting with a wink. Karma swift, like monsoon, but as the sun dipped, gilding the waves, doubt crept in. The viral leak had ballooned. National news now. Pundits dissecting the Harper Cliff scandal on CNN, painting me as avenging angel or ruthless destroyer. Protests outside my Seattle apartment, which I'd sublet in haste, feminists with signs, sisters over sellouts. Clashing with family values types chanting, forgive and forget. One op-ed in The Stranger called my anonymous tip a masterclass in digital vigilantism. Hailing it, Fox News decried it as Witch Hunt 2.0. Controversy clung like humidity. Every interview request a siren call to the spotlight I both craved and cursed. Back stateside. The trial unfolded like a slow-burn thriller. Seattle's federal courthouse a coliseum of whispered scandals. Dad's lawyer spun the gambling as misfortune, Jake's as youthful folly, but the evidence mounted like tidal debris, emails authenticated by forensics. Rico testifying in a suit that pinched his tattoos. Even a surprise witness, Mom's old divorce attorney, who'd squirreled away affidavits predicting their scheme. She feared this, he said on the stand, voice cracking. Told me. Mark. They're wolves in wool. The jury, 12 strangers. A mix of tech bros and blue-collar vets. Ate it up. their faces hardening as the murder plot audio played. Dad's casual accidents happen. Jake's eager, yeah. Slip her right off. My testimony was the gut punch. First-person fire. I trusted them. Loved them. Even when they bled me dry. But that house, it was Mom's heart, transplanted to those cliffs. They didn't just steal property, they erased her. Erased me. The courtroom hushed. Dad's head bowing. Jake's glare fracturing into something like shame. Controversial decisions? Mine shone brightest when cross-exam. Did you hack accounts? Leak docs? The prosecutor objected. But I owned it.
Yes.
Because the system fails the betrayed. I made it work for me. Gasps rippled. The judge banged her gavel. But the seed was planted. Ellie Harper. Flawed hero or felon in waiting. Twist came on verdict day. A curveball from the grave. As the foreman read guilty on all counts, fraud, conspiracy, attempted manslaughter, the bailiff handed me an envelope, sealed with Mom's florid script. Postmarked 2013, held by her lawyer for the right moment. Inside, a codicil to the will, revoking any gifts I'd ever make to Dad or Jake. Plus a letter. Ellie, if you're reading this, they've shown their teeth. The house isn't just yours, it's a trust for women like us. Abused, overlooked, rising. Use it to build, not just bury, build. The word pierced the courtroom din. Dad's sob echoing as he was led away. 15 years. Jake 10. No parole. I didn't gloat. Instead, I flew back to Okinawa alone. The Ryokan waiting like a phoenix mid-rebirth. Tanaka and a crew of local women widows, artists, survivors gathered, their hands calloused from nets and needles. We heard, one said, her English lilting. Make it ours.
Ours.
I nodded, tears blurring the horizon. The inn reopened not as a tourist trap, but a sanctuary, retreats for domestic abuse survivors, yoga on the cliffs, therapy circles under the stars. Funding? Crowdfunded off the scandal's ashes, millions poured in from women who'd whispered their own betrayals. Controversial? Some called it profiteering off pain. I called it poetry. Months blurred into healing. Seattle faded to a postcard. The apartment sublet to a young couple starting over. Jake wrote, once from prison, a scrawl of remorse. You were right. I was dead inside. Forgive. I burned it on the Engwa, ashes scattering to the sea. Dad? Silence. Broken only by a holiday card, and signed. A photo of him in orange, looking smaller than life. Forgiveness? A luxury for the unbroken. I chose forward. One dawn, as typhoon remnants lashed the island, I stood on the cliff path, not the death spot, but a new overlook Mom had loved. Waves thundered below, alive with fury and foam. No ghosts haunted me now. The rage had transmuted, alchemized into resolve. The house hummed behind me, laughter spilling from open screens, guests sharing stories, hands linking in solidarity. I died once, betrayed by blood. But rebirth? It was this, a woman, whole, wielding her scars as a crown. And in that moment, with the storm breaking and sun piercing the clouds, I whispered to the wind, to Mom, to the girl I'd been, we won. Not clean, not kind, but American as hell. Tense, twisted, triumphant.